Hi, I'm Kalashian for Live and Invest Overseas, and today we're talking Belize, specifically Ambergris Caye, its most famous island and probably the most famous destination in the entire country, and one of the most classic expat destinations in the entire Caribbean. So if your dream is all about a retirement or a new life by the beach in the sun with a laid-back Caribbean vibe, then Ambergris Caye, Belize might be exactly what you're looking for. This is a tiny island. It's just 26 miles long and 1 mile wide, very easy to walk or cycle from end to end, and it sits just off of Belize's mainland coast. It is home to some of the clearest, cleanest water and one of the best beach lives there is to have in the Caribbean. And today I'm going to show you what it's really like to live here a little bit beyond those postcards and forum updates that you might have seen online. So first, the island life. Life here is simple in the best possible way. You'll wake up to the sound of waves on the beach with the barrier reef just offshore, protecting the island and keeping the waters clean and calm and crystal clear. And the heart of the island is San Pedro, its main town. It's a colorful, kind of quirky little beach town where everything on the island happens. So think open air bars, beachside restaurants, bakeries, art galleries, and instead of cars, golf carts and bicycles, and of course, lots of pedestrians. And out of any of these lovely establishments, as you walk down the street, you're likely to hear some good classic rock or maybe some reggae, familiar sounds that will definitely entice anyone from America to come in. It's casual, it's friendly, and it's incredibly easy to settle into life here. When it comes to the community and culture here on the island, Ambergris Caye is truly a melting pot. You'll meet people here from the US, from Canada, Europe, and beyond, blended with Belizean locals and culture. English is the official language of Belize, which makes things easier when you're trying to settle in, but you'll also hear plenty of Spanish and Creole, especially as you explore the country a little bit more. The expat community here is especially welcoming, with weekly happy hours, beach events, social gatherings, plenty of yoga or other fitness classes. And expats tend to hang out at places like the Palapa Bar, Wayos, and newer spots like the Alibi or the Sunset Lounge. And the vibe is unpretentious, very social, and refreshingly real. So what is there to do? This is such a small island. So, are you going to get island fever here? Well, that depends on what kind of person you are. Life here revolves around the water. If you are a water bug, you are likely to be in paradise. But if you're looking for things like museums or the opera, this is definitely not the place for you. So the island sits right next to the Belize Barrier Reef, one of the most biodiverse marine ecosystems in the world. You've got world-class diving and snorkeling, the kind of fishing, for everything from snapper to marlin, sailing, kayaking, and boating. This is the kind of stuff that people travel all over the world to experience here because it is so unparalleled around the world. And then there's the legendary Great Blue Hole. This is a bucket list dive site unlike anywhere else on Earth. And if you prefer land, no worries. There's plenty to do on land as well. There's lots of beach clubs, live music, food festivals, even golf day trips to nearby islands might be something to do. But it's mostly centered around community and getting outdoors, hiking, visiting the Mayan ruins, going cave tubing, and all these kinds of outdoor adventures that you can do in Belize. The food and the lifestyle. Food is a huge part of life here, as it is anywhere in the world, and you'll find everything from fresh caught seafood to Thai, Italian, French. Thanks to the international crowd that's here, there's really not much that you'll go wanting for in terms of cuisine. The one thing Ambergris doesn't have, and Belize in general doesn't have, no big chains, no fast food, and no artificial Caribbean-themed experiences. This is the real deal, but that doesn't change the fact that life here revolves around sunset cocktails, toes in the sand, and a strong sense of community. It just does so in a non-artificial way. And so before I move on to share some details on the cost of living with you on this gorgeous island, let me quickly share an invitation. Belize, as I've made clear, I think, is our favorite spot in the Caribbean, but this little country offers so much much more than just those sugar sand beaches and turquoise Caribbean waters. Every year, we host a master's class on how to live, invest, and move to Belize. You'll meet our top experts, past readers who have already made the move, and fellow readers who are also considering the move. With the Live and Invest in Belize conference, you'll get the full experience with the support and friendship of our entire Belize network. And although this event is happening next week, if you haven't already planned to meet us there, it doesn't mean that you have to miss out. You can still gain all of the insights from our local experts. You can still build a network of professionals and a social circle of peers. Do it all while saving money on travel expenses and hotel fees and enjoying at your own convenience while watching at home. This is all thanks to the Live and Invest in Belize virtual pass. This is our live stream option that lets you get in on the action live from our conference rooms in Belize. You'll even be able to interact with the experts and ask your own questions as they are presenting live on your screen. Plus, everything will be recorded and instantly on demand for replay, so you'll never miss a minute of whatever has already happened or what will happen. Forget the costs and the hassle of travel with the virtual pass. You can join us for our famous How to Thrive in Belize event and learn everything that you need to know about our #1 retirement haven in the Caribbean from the comfort of your own home or office. So hurry, this big event starts next week. Get in on that list now. Moving on to cost of living. Let's talk reality. So Ambergris Caye can be affordable, but it is by no means the cheapest place to live in Belize. You can live much more affordably elsewhere, especially off of the islands on the mainland. However, again, this all comes down to lifestyle. So living on an island obviously comes with added expenses, especially on imported goods. But compared to other Caribbean destinations, it's still relatively affordable. So a golf cart here, expect to pay $6,000 to $8,000, and I'm speaking in US dollars for all of these prices. Dining out will add up fast, and Ambergris Caye is really one of the few places where there is a significant nightlife and restaurant scene. So it's here that you would be spending the most money on entertainment. However, on the other hand, local food is very cheap. So if you're eating locally, you could reduce your cost of living from what it is now. So on Ambergris Caye, anything imported means a big hit to your budget. So this is because of shipping and taxes, which often add up to 100% in duties. So let's go through some of the real shockers. And I've had emails from people who have gone to visit Belize and write back to us to say, how can you say Belize is affordable when, for example, peanut butter cost $16 a jar? Well, that's imported brand name peanut butter coming from the US or more likely Mexico. Still though, the duties, as I say, add up. If you find a local brand, you're probably going to get it you will get it at a fraction of that cost. But if you're on an island, there's always going to be this premium put on goods because they need to be shuttled in. A little bit more effort goes into the logistics than on the mainland. But as well, the cost of import and shipping really does add up. So let's look at some other of the really high ticket items that people are galled at when they travel to Belize or specifically Ambergris Caye. So breakfast cereal is another one in this category. So anything Cheerios, granola, Lucky Charms, whatever it is, it's almost as if I were buying it here in my home city of Paris. It's $8 to $12 per box. And I'm usually paying that in euros, so it's even more expensive. In Belize, though, expect to pay about $10 on average for a box of cereal. Again, this is just an average box, nothing large, supersized, special about it. This is just the costs of duties. Cheese is another one. So if you're looking at non-local cheeses, so anything imported, especially from Europe or the US, you're looking at $6 to $9 a block, just an average ordinary block. So not making lots of baked ziti or mac and cheese with Irish cheddar while you're here. However, if you go to the local markets, discover the local cheeses, I guarantee that you will be able to find excellent recipes to substitute. Apples, grapes, berries, the kinds of fruits that do not grow easily in Belize are quite expensive as well. So papaya, pineapple, banana, guava, all of these tropical fruits you're going to get for pennies, mango, etc. But anything that grows in a slightly cooler climate is just not going to survive very well in Belize, and the cost of shipping it in is quite a lot. And then once you get them, they're honestly not very good. They've been refrigerated, possibly frozen, they've been sitting around too long, and they only have a couple days before they go bad. So not always worth it. I'd stick with those tropical fruits. Wine, you're looking at a minimum of $12 a bottle, going up to $30 for just a really basic bottle. Whatever you could grab off the shelf in a store, $20 might be the kind of average that you're seeing there. And again, this is because there are huge duties put on alcohol that is imported, and Belize is not making its own wine. So learn to drink beer, learn to drink rum, maybe leave the wine back home. Packaged snacks. So this could be anything from little cookie packs, chips, crackers. Expect to pay $7 to $15 for anything like that. A bag of Cheetos, just a normal, average, everyday bag of Cheetos, bag of chips, Chex Mix, whatever it is that gets your taste buds going. They're going to cost an arm and a leg here. So maybe try some of the fried plantain chips instead of the normal chips that you might get from back home. And, look for those generic local options. They're not going to be exactly the same. There may be a day when you decide it's worth it to pay $10 for a bag of Cheetos, but on an everyday kind of basis, it's going to really stack up in terms of cost of living. So groceries alone can double the cost of living if you're buying imported foods versus the local diet. If you're relying on imports, you're really going to pay through the nose for it. Many residents actually take trips to Mexico, which is just across the border, Chetumal, for shopping to save money. You can go there and go to PetSmart, Walmart, Home Depot, a Costco, all of these big US, big box brand name chains, franchises, what have you. Everything that doesn't exist in Belize is available right over the border. So you're really never at a loss, but it might become a fun new part of your life to go over to Mexico once a month to do your Costco shopping. So as I say, eating locally is a completely different story to all of this. A plate of rice and beans might cost less than $5, but a fresh lobster from a fisherman, maybe $20. Still, that's a very good price for a fresh lobster. I bet you're going to pay more than that if you go to a nice restaurant in the US and that this has just been caught the same day by some diver. I've paid for this as well in the Caribbean. You're staying at a little hut on the water and some local diver comes up and says, "Give me $20 and I'll go find you a lobster." And he, free dives down and brings you up a lobster and puts it right on your dock outside of your hotel room. So that's how fresh the seafood is. And right, $20 for a lobster, $20 for a meal, maybe a little bit over your budget, but for a fresh lobster straight out of the Caribbean, I think that's a pretty good deal. So for a couple living in the heart of San Pedro, again, the heart of the town, a realistic monthly budget could go anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000. $2,400 would definitely be on the more sparse side of life, eating out a little bit less, cooking for yourself and eating locally more, going to the local markets more. And you can easily go up to $4,000 and plenty more if you're buying imported goods every day on this island. So it really depends on how you want to live. The bottom line is you can live well and very affordably here, but your lifestyle choices really make a difference. All right, let's look at the climate and safety. So the weather here, this is tropical paradise to a T. The weather is warm year round. Highs around 87, lows around 72, middle of the night kind of thing, right before the sun rises. There is a rainy season, but it's still, quite tropical, very livable. It's about, it might amount to an hour of rain per day at the very heavy end of things. And the rest of the day is still quite sunny and warm. And the temperature never really changes. The humidity might a little bit. Hurricanes are possible here, but Belize actually does see far fewer direct hits than many other Caribbean islands and regions because of the reef. It offers a natural protection and sends weather back out to sea. When it comes to safety, Belize City really brings down the country's statistics when it comes to crime and murder rates. So they can basically be tossed out the window because the population in Belize is so small that the crimes that happen in Belize City, they're entirely almost gang and drug related, and they skew the entire curve for the entire country. So Ambergris, though, is generally very safe. The worst you might encounter here is a pickpocket on the beach. You just have to have some common sense, as you would anywhere. Don't leave your wallet out on your beach towel. Don't take off your watch when you go swimming and leave it in your shoe. They know to check there. So the point is, have a bit of common sense, as I say, and definitely Belize City is a place that you can safely avoid without worrying about missing anything. Really nothing in Belize City to entice you there, and that's where all the crime is. All right, so the healthcare reality, and this is one of the big reality checks. Healthcare on the island is basic. at best. There is a 24-hour clinic, but there is no full-service hospital. They are equipped to deal with things that are common amongst the islands when it comes to ocean dangers or jungle dangers, basic kinds of injuries, but you would not want to get anything drastic done here on the island or in Belize, period. Frankly. So for anything serious, you can head right over the border to Mexico. It's fairly quick and easy to get there, and they have excellent healthcare to the same standards as the US. Or just go back home, maybe go to Florida or Texas or some kind of closer state if yours is farther away. But healthcare is definitely the big downside to Belize. So this is really overall a better fit for anyone who is relatively healthy and prepared for a little bit of that trade-off with emergency care. So, right, emergency care, day-to-day afflictions, but anything serious is going to get transferred immediately out of the country, really, for excellent care. So is Ambergris Caye right for you? It's not for everyone, as I hope I have illustrated here in this video. It's not ultra polished, it's not the cheapest, and it's definitely not fast paced. But if you are looking for a real Caribbean lifestyle, a strong social expat community, and daily life centered around sun, sea, and simplicity, then Ambergris Caye might just be your perfect beach escape. And don't forget to click to find out more about that Live and Invest in Belize virtual pass in case you want to learn more about moving to Belize or retiring in Belize. Happy trails.